Adolescence is a new 4-episode miniseries running on Netflix now that sets the bar to an all-new high for acting, storytelling, and production. The miniseries tells the story of a young boy who is accused of unaliving a classmate and the impact of that accusation across his family, his classmates, and his community. I was not ready for the emotional impact this series had on me. I found myself drawn to tears way more times than I had anticipated. The series is very timely, focusing on incel culture and the need to belong and the feeling of being an outcast. Those feelings are not new, but the impact of social media on young people enhances or amplifies those feelings to a degree that previous generations have not experienced and don't know how to deal with. The family doesn't know how to deal with what they learn that their young son has gone through. And the story as it unfolds will take you through a variety of emotions. You will feel very sad for this young boy. You will feel very mad at this young boy. You'll feel very sad for his family, and you'll feel mad at his family. The series clearly does say that allowing your children to just exist on social media and on their computers and not being a part of their lives in that way is a mistake. And that is something that I think a lot of people could learn. I haven't talked a lot about the production because I'm going to talk about that in part 2, but I will mention that each episode is shot in one shot, one take, and that becomes the most powerful in an episode, where the majority of the episode follows a psychiatrist or psychologist as she interviews the young boy and learns of his past, what he's done, and where he is emotionally. This single interview is so tense and caused me so much anxiety. I was, again, sad and mad over and over again at him. I was afraid for her. The acting was immaculate here. It's a simple story at the end of the day, but it says so much about the struggle that kids go through and how important it is that we be fully invested in every aspect of their lives, including their computer and their social media. It's a 4.5 out of 5. I started it planning to watch one episode and didn't stop till I was done. I want to talk about the format in which they shot, the methods they used to shoot the series. Each episode of the series was shot in a single shot, single take. Once you start shooting, you can't stop. If you mess up, you've got to start the whole thing all over again. The story is already very intense, and there's a lot of anxiety involved in the story. But now that we're not cutting away from the characters, everything is happening in real time, it feels almost documentary. It feels more realistic and more tense. Everything here is done with Steadicams, with gimbals, handheld, on drones, all using a technique of passing the camera. So I want to talk about some patterns that you can recognize if you go back and watch it again. So you'll notice very often they are in hallways. You'll have a character going this way. You got your character here, and you'll have your camera directly behind the character. You'll notice in this series, you get a lot of over-the-shoulder, sort of isometric type of shots. And this gives you a pretty wide lens here. So we have another character coming this way. You're going to see this pattern over and over again in this show. And what will happen next is the camera will circle this way usually, and around and behind. They stop to have a conversation, even if it's just a couple of words. It's long enough for that camera to pan around, come behind the new character, and follow them down the hall this way. There are only a few instances in this series where a door is actually shut. Now, that doesn't include cars. When they get in and out of cars, the doors are always shut. But when they go in and out of offices or houses, there's only a couple of times the door is actually shut. What will happen in those cases is, let's say the door is here, opens in, almost always opens in this series. Character goes in, camera guy is following. Now, what is fun to watch is this door never shuts. And sometimes the character will actually open the door too wide. They'll push it all the way open. They'll do that because the camera person behind them is probably wearing a Steadicam rig, which is a big backpack situation with an arm that goes over their head and drops a line down to hold the camera, and then they've got a gimbal. It's big. So they'll open this door and it'll stay open. They'll go on in, and you in the audience, you'll forget about it. They just keep going and that door is never shut. There is one instance where they go in and you actually see the actor turn, the camera also turns, and then that actor will shut that door. There is a time where they are following a character and that character actually climbs out a window. The actor climbs out the window here. Well, the cam op stops right here. There's another cam op right here, and that camera is passed to that cam op, and then they begin to follow the actor. So you can kind of see that angle. You'll know when it's happening because you'll see that angle change a little bit. Instead of being directly behind, it'll go to the side, and you'll get a slight profile of the character coming out the window. Timing is everything here. It's on the actor to go slow enough out that window to give the camera time to catch up, but the camera has to be steady and fast enough to keep the whole experience looking real. The other scene that I want to talk about is the interrogation scene in episode 3. In that scene, you have a table. It's actually square, not round. And for the majority of the time, you have 2 actors, one on each side. To keep this interesting, the camera is constantly circling the actors. This has been highly rehearsed. So the camera knows when to stop and push in on an actor's face and then pan over to the other actor. And this happens consistently. Now, what's challenging about this is since the camera is circling, you can see the entirety of the room in the background. When this camera is circling these 2 characters, you can't have anything in the background. Every time you move a camera around the cast, the lights, the microphones, everything has to move. Now, in the case of this show, they don't have to worry about that as much. It is very documentary style, so they're using a lot of natural lighting. You'll notice in that room, in that interrogation room, there are a couple of windows, I think, like around here and around here, that are getting natural light. I can guarantee you, I haven't found it, but I can guarantee you that's not natural light. There probably is some natural light happening, but they've put lights outside those windows, and they're just blowing that light out into the room so that they can keep control of it for the entirety of the sequence. Everybody who's involved in this film, or in this scene, is in another room off to the side with wireless monitors. The director, everybody else is not in this space offering any guidance to these actors. So this sequence had to be rehearsed to death. They really had to go in knowing what they were doing, which is pretty amazing when you think the kid in this series is a new actor. This is new for him. So the other scene that I really wanted to talk about that I got diverted from is a scene where the camera goes from handheld, from on a gimbal, to a drone. The cam op is carrying the camera, following the actor. In this case, it's Stephen Graham, the father, following him as they've been doing the entirety of the series. But behind him, or off to the side of him, there are 2 other camera operators carrying a big drone. They walk in over the top of him with that drone, and the cam op lifts that camera up, attaches it to the drone. The drone operator then takes over the camera, flies it into the air, gives you an aerial shot of what's happening, brings it back down behind the actor once again, and the cam ops then run up. They can't be in the shot until that camera is down, because if they run into the shot early, you will see them because it's such a wide shot. Cam ops run up, grab the camera, pull it off the drone, and then bring it around in front of Stephen Graham. It's an incredible feat of filmmaking. I gave this a 4.5 out of 5. I stand by that. The production here is a 5 out of 5 on its own. I think you should watch it. And let me know if you notice any of these patterns. Let's talk about this in the comments, and let me know what you thought of Adolescence.